There's some strange shit going on in this house, and I know damn well it is. There's some strange shit going on in this house, and I know damn well it is. There's some strange shit going on in this house, and I know damn well it is. Lord have mercy. I ain't been this nervous since I've been black.
Hey stranger, welcome to High Strangeness, a sad, sexy, spooky anthology with an explicit gaze on the beautiful horrors of black queer life. The story you're about to hear happened to someone, somewhere, maybe to someone like you. Someone being told they're overreacting right before they're proven right. Quite simply put, this is a story about dogs in places they do not belong. And the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Some things don't leave unless you make them. Tonight's tale is called Dog Person. Dog Person by Kendrick Daye. 1. Khadijah was not a dog person. That, however, was not the same as hating them. Hate was expensive, and she had learned to live on less. What she carried instead was pattern recognition, earned the long way, by being black, by being gay, by being a woman, by watching her neighborhood change overnight. So she knew when white people moved in and walked their dogs without fear, it meant the neighborhood wasn't ours anymore. It was theirs. But Khadijah didn't believe in ownership the way white people did. That's how you know she was about to lose something. That morning, she woke before her alarm. She eased herself out of bed, careful not to disturb Camille's arm draped across her chest. Camille murmured something but didn't wake. Khadijah watched her for a bit, then kissed her forehead before leaving the room. Outside, sunlight danced over Coconut Grove. This neighborhood had been Khadijah's family's home for generations. Long before Miami learned to cosplay as a luxury city, her nana used to say this place remembered who treated it right. Khadijah hoped memory worked both ways. She stepped out onto the porch the same way her nana used to. Their house was a flat top. Those built back when Miami still belonged to people who needed airflow more than validation. The new houses around it were identical white boxes stacked on one another. All angles and money, allergic to sun and community. She lit a joint and paced, trying to write. She drifted into the yard and took one step too far. Then her foot landed in shit. Not metaphorical, actual dog shit. Warm enough for the owner to still be proud of themselves. Across the street stood a white man Khadijah had never seen before. His dog, a white Labrador, sat next to him, watching her. The man smiled and gave a little stupid wave, like Khadijah was in the wrong, like she was the one out of place. Standing there with shit on her shoe and anger swelling in her gut, she felt realization settle. The Grove was learning new rules, and none of them were written with her or people like her in mind. 2. Khadijah dropped the shoes straight into the trash. Camille appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the day. "Those are your favorites," she said. "They were," Khadijah huffed, "until I stepped in the new neighbor's dog shit." "How you know it was him?" Camille asked. There was a pause. It was short, but heavy enough. Then Khadijah launched into a tirade about the Grove and how white people love dogs more than they loved other humans. Camille listened with the grin tugging at her mouth that didn't quite belong there. "It's not a hate crime," she offered. "It's just a dog." Khadijah shook her head. "That's how it starts. Then suddenly I'm the angry black bitch across the street because I'm asking motherfuckers to clean up after their mangy-ass dog." Camille hugged Khadijah from the back. "You wouldn't want a fur baby?" she teased. Khadijah frowned. "You know I'm not a dog person." Camille kissed her on the cheek anyway. Don't forget the groceries, she said, as she headed out the door. Khadijah stayed home and tried to write. The screen stayed white. The cursor blinked like it was daring her to do something about it, knowing she wouldn't. She stood up and looked out the window. Across the street, the neighbor was still there. The same white man, that same goofy smile. He lifted his hand and waved. She didn't wave back. 3. Khadijah pushed her cart through Publix and counted dogs the way other people counted calories. Reluctantly, but diligently. Little dogs, big dogs, cute dogs, ugly dogs, dogs in purses, dogs in carts where children should be. None of the animals wore vests because none of them were needed. Worse even, their owners were smiling, ear-to-ear grins on all of them, like they were in on some edgelord joke Khadijah was just too sensitive to find the humor in. A woman passed her with a fucking poodle filling her basket. "Excuse me," Khadijah said. "Publix doesn't allow pets." The woman smiled at her, unbothered by the context, as if Khadijah complimented her shoes or something. "Ma'am?" she reiterated. The woman's smile never faded. She never spoke either, just turned and walked away, still smiling. Khadijah searched the store for confirmation, for someone to nod, to frown, to notice, to disagree even, anything. But eyes slid away from her. The only black people she saw were behind counters or stocking shelves. They had their heads down, pretending not to see her struggle. Am I crazy, Khadijah thought? Am I the only one seeing this? She left the store with half her list unfinished and a headache starting behind her eyes. She wanted to scream, to call it out, to name it. Instead, she drove to the one person whose memory of the grove matched hers. Her brother Jamal. 4. Khadijah and Jamal were at the bar, deep into their drinks when a dog arrived. It was enormous. Its presence filled the restaurant before its owner did. A white woman who smiled apologetically, as if its size were simply a minor inconvenience. The place accepted them without question. Khadijah sucked her teeth. "See this shit?" Jamal rolled his eyes. "Shit seen. Y'all done turned the Grove into a Petco." "Who is y'all?" Khadijah shot back. They drank and bantered the way only siblings can. Khadijah talked about what the Grove used to be. Jamal talked about why he left. Somewhere between the 3rd and 4th round, Khadijah mentioned her neighbor and the shit. I know it's the new white dude across the street," Khadijah speculated. She stiffened. Jamal noticed. "Get a ring camera," he offered. Khadijah smiled without humor. "Nigga, and be a cop for free?" "And Camille?" Jamal wondered. Khadijah shook her head. "She think I'm doing too much." "Ain't she a bi Rachel?" Jamal teased. "Yeah," Khadijah admitted. "But she got a black mama." "That counts," she added. They snickered loud enough for the white woman to glance at them and smile. Khadijah and Jamal grimaced. "Remember what Nana used to say?" Jamal asked. "If you let them shit on what's yours, they'll eventually shit on you too." Khadijah looked across the bar. The woman was feeding the dog scraps from her plate. The dog wasn't looking at it though. It was looking at Khadijah. 5. Emboldened was a polite word for what Khadijah felt. Really? She was over it. That morning she woke before the alarm, before the birds, and the sun even. She made coffee and stood at the front window like a woman waiting for a crime. It didn't take long. The new neighbor stepped out of his house and crossed the street without looking both ways. The dog trotted ahead of him. They stopped on Khadijah's lawn. The dog lowered itself and raised its eyes to meet Khadijah's. Something tightened inside her, and she was outside before she realized she had a shovel in her hand. "Yo, motherfucker!" she yelled. The man and his dog didn't stop. Her voice grew louder. "Yo!" She scooped the shit and hurled it. It sailed past the man's shoulder and slapped against his window with a wet thud. That got their attention. The dog turned and snarled. Then the man turned. He smiled, and then he waved. Khadijah stood there gripping the shovel, heart pounding, and most of all, dumbfounded. 6. Khadijah should have been writing. Instead, she stood at the window watching him watch her. Across the street, her neighbor and his dog stood there. He waved. She closed the blinds, but it was too late to pretend she hadn't seen him. She sucked her teeth when the doorbell rang. The man was already smiling when she opened the door. He held a tin of cookies in one hand. His unleashed dog sat at his feet. He offered his free hand. "I'm Todd. We might have got off on the wrong foot." Khadijah just looked at his hand. Yeah, a shitty one. She went to shut the door. Todd stuck his hand in between. "I wanted to apologize," he offered, and handed her the tin of cookies. "Nothing says sorry like sweets," he added. Khadijah froze. She finally got a good look at him. Up close, his eyes were blown wide, pupils dilated. The dog leaned forward and sniffed her leg like she was meat. She recoiled. "He doesn't bite," Todd smirked. "I'm not a dog person," Khadijah insisted. "And keep his ass off my property." She locked the door and stood there a moment longer than necessary. Then she crossed the kitchen and dropped the cookies into the trash. Camille drifted in, drawn by the ruckus. "Who was that?" "The neighbor," Khadijah said. "He had some half-ass apology and cookies." Camille peeked into the trash. An olive branch." Khadijah looked at her. "A Trojan horse," she corrected. Camille reached into the trash, pulled out the tin and a cookie and took a bite. Something in her eyes shifted, but Khadijah was too busy looking out the window to notice. "They're good," Khadijah said. Khadijah didn't turn around. She just watched the neighbor across the street. Something ain't right with them. Camille studied her. She was not dismissive or unkind. She was worried. "Baby, I know you're carrying a lot right now." She hugged Khadijah from the back. "Losing your mom and your nana back to back is a lot." She kissed Khadijah's cheek. "Go outside and get some fresh air," she encouraged. 7. Khadijah's thoughts wouldn't line up, so she let her feet take over. Jogging, after all, was easier than thinking. She moved slowly through the neighborhood, but her mind kept circling the same truth. The disrespect was not accidental. It was deliberate. She remembered when it started, one arrival then another, each demanding the neighborhood be warped and changed to their liking as if nothing had been there before. Ike's corner store disappeared first when they couldn't keep up with the rent. A Whole Foods now sat in its place, glowing, overpriced and hollow. By summer, the Goombay Festival was silenced because black people celebrating anything was always too loud for white people. Funny how their noise never counted though. Their barking dogs, for one, was noise pollution to Khadijah. They barked as she passed, frantic and furious, as if she were trespassing through their property. Halfway down the block, something disrupted the pattern. She saw a white man in his yard. For a breath, she thought he'd fallen or was hurt. Her instinct was to help, but something was off. The man crawled in slow devotion around a bowl filled with cookies. Then he began to eat them. Khadijah's breath caught. The man lifted his head and looked straight at her, and he barked. She stepped back without thinking, nearly into the street. A bus horn exploded beside her. It missed her by seconds. When she looked back at the yard, it was empty except for the bowl of cookies. As the bus rolled past, she saw the ad plastered along its side. "Protect your home. Protect your family. Guns sold here." She giggled at the divine timing of the message. "I love Florida," she cackled. 8. Khadijah came home with guns the way people come home with groceries. She laid the pistols, the rifle, the ammunition out on the dining table one by one, like bread or milk, like something you regret forgetting. The door opened behind her. Camille stepped in, shoulders slumped, work still clinging to her. She took 2 steps into the room and stiffened. Her eyes traced the table, then lifted to Khadijah, who was at the window pulling the curtain back just enough to see Todd's dog on their lawn. "You okay, baby?" Camille asked. She didn't answer. She watched as another dog stepped onto the grass beside Todd's. Then more joined it. Camille rubbed her temples. "I don't love this," she admitted. "But I don't have it in me to fight tonight." Khadijah turned from the window at last. "This isn't a fight," she assured. "Not with you." Khadijah nodded, already halfway gone. "I'm gonna get some rest." She disappeared into the bedroom and closed the door. Khadijah twisted back to the window. The dogs were gone, but their dirty business was left behind, as countless fresh piles of shit dotted the lawn. 9. This was the thing Khadijah had been trying to explain. This was the point. She crossed the yard and flung each heap back where it belonged, against Todd's house, his windows, his car, anything that belonged to him. She didn't rush. She worked steadily, like someone doing a job that should have been done a long time ago. Soon, one last pile remained. She lifted the shovel and stalled. She squinted her eyes and stepped closer. Todd's blinds were wide open. Every light in his house was on. He sat on his couch with the TV off, a plate of cookies in his lap, chewing slowly. He didn't react when a blob of shit smeared down his window. Something moved behind Khadijah. She whirled. Todd's dog stepped out of the shadows. It didn't notice her. It crossed the yard calmly and headed down the street, like it had someplace important to be. Then the barking started. Not nearby, everywhere. A shrill sound rising all at once. Dogs poured out from yards and homes. They ran together, drawn toward the same invisible signal. Khadijah looked down the block and felt the last of her denial peel away. She weighed her options, then she followed them. 10. The dogs led Khadijah and her pistol to a warehouse. Inside, she pressed herself behind a stack of boxes. White people she recognized moved through the space. The woman from the bar, the lady from Publix, the man she had seen crawling in his backyard. Their hands moved precisely and mechanically, processing cookies as if in some trance. And then it dawned on her. It was the cookies. Every interaction she had witnessed, the smiles, the complacency, the olive branches, were Trojan horses. These cookies were the wedge, the lever, the slow, sweet poison that made them pliable. Khadijah pressed her phone into her palm and recorded everything. She slipped further inside and ended up on a catwalk overlooking the warehouse. The dogs were in the open space below in a circle. Todd's dog led. It was a silent captain among a gathering of the unnatural. Then they stood up, their hind legs lengthened, their shoulders rolled back like they were getting used to being looked at this way. Watching it felt obscene, like seeing someone unzip their skin. They stretched into their height and spoke like it was nothing special, like they were co-workers, killing time between shifts. Khadijah's hand shook as she recorded. "We're ahead of schedule," one dog said. Todd's dog stepped forward. "And what of the black humans?" "What of them?" another asked. "They aren't taking to the change as we hoped." The first dog shrugged. "This planet hates them enough. We don't need to do much else." Something cold bloomed behind Khadijah's ribs. She angled the phone to get a closer look, and then it rang. Her brother's face lit the screen, followed by a string of frantic texts stacked one upon another. The sound reverberated in the open space. Every head snapped toward her. But by the time the dogs reached the stacks of boxes, she was already gone. 11. When Khadijah came home, she locked the door behind her. She called her brother, but all she got was his voicemail. Something moved in the quiet. She pulled the pistol, ready for anything. Barking drifted in from the street. It was low but multiplying. Khadijah moved to the window and parted the curtain. Dogs. Dozens of them. Their eyes glinted, teeth flashing in the dimming light. And behind them, her neighbors stood still, smiling, Not cruelly, though. This was worse. They were content, like the world had finally bent to their will. Khadijah shut out the sight like it could follow her when something behind her stirred. Camille stood there, barefoot and serene, as if nothing in the world were out of place. Khadijah? She spun. The dogs, the neighbors, they're aliens. Camille didn't interrupt. She listened while Khadijah spilled everything about the warehouse, the dog standing upright, the cookies, it all scraped raw against her throat. By the end, Khadijah was shaking so hard she had to lean against the counter. You don't believe me, Khadijah cried. She handed her phone to Camille. I'll show you. Camille watched without blinking. When it ended, she dropped it into the garbage disposal and flipped the switch. The scream of metal roared through the kitchen. Khadijah lunged. What are you doing? She demanded. Camille smiled wide enough to reach her eyes, and something inside Khadijah collapsed. That was when she looked at Camille. Really looked. The softness was gone. Her eyes had the same dull shine as the neighbors. Camille lifted something from the floor. A small brown lapdog. Your mother always wanted us to have kids, Camille grinned. The dog yelped with a sound that scraped straight through Khadijah's skull. In her mind, she was 8 years old again. Her Nana had sent her out to play while she stood firm in the doorway with the developer, refusing to sell, refusing to leave. It was him who had to leave. This is ours, her Nana had told her later. They will always want what we have. That's why we guard it. Khadijah's gaze drifted from the dog to Camille to the guns. Clarity arrived like a cold hand on her shoulder. It was time. 12. By nightfall, dogs packed Khadijah's yard. On the porches of each house stood the neighbors, Todd, the woman from the bar, the Publix lady, all of them smiling. A sudden crack split the air. One gunshot, then another. The dogs rose. Hind legs straightened, backs locked into place. They stood there like something halfway between a joke and a nightmare. The neighborhood was silent for a beat. Then Khadijah's front door creaked open. She stood out onto the porch carrying a rifle and a joint between her lips. Her hair clung to her face with the sweat and blood. Her shoulder was darkened in places she didn't want to think about yet. Ammunition crossed her shoulders. Pistols and holsters rode her hips. The dogs all began to snarl at Khadijah at once. The neighbors waved. Khadijah's eyes sharpened. The flame kissed the end of the joint and she inhaled, slowly, like it'd be the last high the night would allow. She stepped off the porch and into the street. Her street, her block, her coconut grove. She had crossed the Rubicon. She heard her Nana's voice like it was right behind her. They don't leave unless you make them. And Khadijah wasn't planning on asking.